All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Sell Yeah, the 8-Fig podcast segment that features interviews with a wide array of our valued partners and sometimes seller customers to spread the good word about what they're doing to bring value to the e-commerce space and make for a better ecosystem for us all. I'm your host, as always, Sam Bell, also happen to be the partnerships managers with 8-Fig. So again, I appreciate you turning in to hear more about our esteemed partners. Before we begin, just have one request of our listeners. If you guys are enjoying this podcast and think others might as well, feel free to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. This will help others discover the podcast and our awesome partners like Gal. So let's get started. We have an awesome chit chat today with our guest. She's an impressive one for sure. Please welcome my friend and 8-Fig partner, Gal Barzilay. Gal, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to kind of dig in here and have an awesome chat. I'll give a brief background on Gal, and then I'm excited to hear a little bit more from you on what you're doing, all the cool things you're involved in. But Gal is the co-founder and COO of boosst. She is also a former engineer who has experience working with global banks and developing tech solutions for e-commerce giants like Adidas, L'Oreal, and HP. Her startup boosst was chosen for Amazon and Techstars New York City accelerators, aiming to enable millions of entrepreneurs to buy and sell businesses. Gal's mission stems from her parents' struggles when retiring from their small businesses, inspiring her to make the acquisition process accessible and affordable to anyone. Outside of work, Gal enjoys running, drawing, and hiking. Those are some awesome hobbies. I actually love drawing and creating art as well.
Really?
So that's that. Yeah, I do. It's something that I really love. What do you like to draw? Just out of curiosity.
Oil paint. They're water that you can take and just draw. I have many different ways to mix art. So I think water painting is my favorite one.
Nice. I like watercolor a lot as well. I find it pretty difficult.
It is. Wow.
It's really tough.
It is.
Because it's like whatever you put down on the paper, it's permanent. There's no real
but this
taking
is the
away
beauty.
the color. So
you can't erase,
That's pretty profound. I like that. I never thought about that. I'd always get frustrated, putting it down on paper and being like, I made a mistake, whatever. But there's also beauty in that, which is pretty cool. Awesome. Well, Gal, thanks again for joining. It's a really impressive background. I know, I've known you for a long time, and boosst is something that is really, really impressive. So I think me, as well as the audience, would love to hear a little bit more, of your background, right? How'd you get to boosst? What was the origin there, and what really made you want to create it and kind of work on it?
Of course. I started my little intro, and you can feel free to ask me some follow-up questions. I always like to say that I was growing up with two parents who were and still business owners, small, medium business owners. And most of their life, they were super independent. And I saw them working so hard. And I think from there, I understood it. One day I will open my own company. I saw the struggle that they have, but I also saw the dream, open your own company. And I saw how inspiring is it to be a business owners for me. So I think from early days, since I was a child, I was inspired to open my company. I didn't know exactly which company, what I'm going to do, which ecosystem I'm going to choose. But this is my, my first as a child, let's say mission. Then I joined the army, actually. After high school, I was serving for 4 years as a deputy company commander. I had a company of 200 soldiers. It was pretty natural to me. I love people, love interacting with people. I also have 26 commanders under me, and I was a big commander in the army, but I like that. But I always has this dream of opening my own company. So I quit my army service. I joined one of the universities in Israel, and I actually studied entrepreneurship and computer science. So I finished my degree, but I needed to afford that. Afford a degree, especially 2 degrees, was super, super hard. So I worked at the startups here in Israel. I'm originally from Israel. And my last position was in a unicorn here in Israel called WalkMe, and I was a solution engineer. And what I actually did is helping e-commerce brand and enterprises to help them with the user experience solutions. So I was developing a solution for the platform in order to improve the user experience for their employees, but also for their customers, the end customers that eventually will take the product to the cart. And this is my first time I think I was interacting with e-commerce in general. So it's really nice to see, it was really nice to see giant companies like L'Oreal and Adidas, and to think by myself how I can improve the user experience. And I learned what is a brand. I met a lot of people from the operation side, like how they managing brand, what is important for a brand. So I think was my first, okay, this is an e-commerce, segment. I like it. I like to help e-commerce entrepreneurs. What's the next step? So I quit my job, and make this story short. I participated in Accelerator for Startup, looking for founders. I met 2 co-founders. We flew to Prosper Show. You probably guys know what is Prosper Show. We interview hundreds of sellers and buyers and brokers in the industry 2 years ago. And we identify a lot of problems in the space regarding selling and buying a business. So from my understanding of e-commerce, my CEO also had a knowledge. He has a startup in machine learning for e-commerce brands. We explore this segment of what is to buy or sell an e-commerce brand. And from there, we took our technology understanding and knowledge and brought to this ecosystem better solutions in order to make this ecosystem huge. We saw the huge potential in the market, but also we understood the needs that they're still missing in this market. So this is how I think this is why, and this is how we actually created the company.
Really awesome. No, that's such a unique background and very rich and diverse, right? I had not known that you were basically, a high ranking position in the Army as well, managing a lot of people there, which is pretty awesome. Do you feel like that helped you, in your position at Boosst to manage people? Is it a similar style, or is there a lot of, differences and similarities or whatnot?
It's definitely not a similar style, managing a startup and a military of rookies, but it's definitely, I think, built my my entrepreneurship skills, my confidence. I think the Army service really bring you and teaching you how to be with really high confidence, how to interact with people, how to be more social, how to manage people. So all these skills later on definitely helped me with like my entrepreneurship journey. Until this day, I'm still have like my Army kind of skills, but I'm not managing it in the same way. Being an Army commander is completely different. Managing, an employee that wanna have his salary every paycheck every month. So, or wanna help the vision of a startup. So it's completely different, but I will say the skills are definitely there.
Awesome. No, so interesting. And, to see that your career progress into Boosst is something that's really cool. And it's a brand that I really admire. I'd love to dig into kind of the process for somebody who wants to get, involved in the marketplace on Boosst. Say they want to sell their business. They might be an e-commerce entrepreneur and they want to sell their business. What do you look for in those entrepreneurs, like when you're listing them on Boosst? Do you have requirements? Are there certain things that they need to do to get set up there? Or what does the process look like for somebody who wants to sell their business?
So clarify, before I answer the specific question, clarify one thing. At Boosst, we have multiple solutions in the acquisition process. So we're not just, listing as a marketplace. You can see many marketplaces out there. So we have a private market that we have our buyers that can communicate, and it's not launching. It's not privately. So it's not just every marketplace. So you're listing your business separately and you do it the process by yourself, because our understanding that you need a lot of knowledge. No matter if you have 50K business or $10 million business annual sales, you still need the knowledge of the experts in order to close the best deal as possible for yourself. And it's a lot of things involved, from understanding how much your business is worth, to negotiation, to contracts, to transfer the business, a lot of things. So for each one of these sections, we have products to help the process. And we help the process like from A to Z to closing the gap between a seller and a buyer. We're also helping the buyer, but we can talk about separately. But for your question, from the seller perspective, I think we're mainly focusing on e-commerce. So our company, future-wise, will target every SMB, small, medium businesses in the state. Usually, this is our dream, but we're now in the e-commerce segment. So we are expertise in the e-commerce brand space. Usually are like clients that have the best, let's say, traction from a buyer's persona will be sellers with 300, 400K in annual profit, usually, and above. They have a good brand. It can be few product, it can be a lot of product, but they have a solid brand. Some of them, if it's more than Amazon, have a social presence, so they have a great presence online, and prefer few founders, because also founders can, when you continue the acquisition, a lot of people involved, and then the acquisition become much more difficult. But with everything I said, like, every company has its own process. Every company will have its own exit in the future. I'm just saying the background. And for us, our sweet spot as clients will be Amazon and Shopify customers. And in general, e-commerce brand, what our sweet spot are Amazon and Shopify business owners. And another thing that I will say for the question, if you want to, let's say, list your business in a marketplace, if you want to sell your business with us, if you want to sell with a broker, you need to know you want to sell your business. So this is people sometimes forget asking, like, how the business, how much in profit, how much in sales, how many products. But for us, the number one thing you need to know, you are ready to sell your business. This is an emotional step that you need to take before even starting. And I'm saying it right now. If somebody listen, I think it's a great to think about it before actually starting the process, to think about it seriously. And because this process can be long, it can be few months, but it can be years. Potentially it will generate for you a lot of, cash, and, it's a dream to exit your business, especially with high return. But it start with emotional process, can continue with emotional process, but definitely a decision needs to be made. Such as raising fund. You need to know that you want to raise capital before you're starting the process.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome, to think about, because, it's also funny that you bring that up. We were involved with a few e-commerce entrepreneurs recently talking about, is it better to sell? Is it better to keep growing? What do your goals look like? And like me personally, like if I were to start a business, I'd probably have the vision of selling it down the line, right? Just, I mean, I also guess it depends on what I would start, but just where I go personally, I think like I'd want to sell and make an exit down the line. But it's also interesting to hear the other side of the equation, and as you brought up, it's an emotional journey that you need to go on. Is it something that you really want to do, or do you want to keep growing it? Do you want to hire? Do you want to build it into a bigger firm, into something that goes public down the line? Who knows? It's like, that's the beauty in it, is that there's so many different paths that you can take, and that's what's really interesting. So I appreciate your response there. You mentioned something earlier that I kind of hadn't thought about. I've always been looking through the lens of somebody who wants to sell their business, but in terms of the other side of the equation, somebody who wants to buy a business, what is that? How are you guys involved in that process? What sort of tools and suite of services can you offer to the buyers of businesses that will help them make a decision?
It's a great question, because usually people forgetting the buyers in the equation of selling a business.
Yep.
And I think less solutions are for the buyers. Even though we saw the huge, boom of the aggregator space, we still see like they missing the solutions in order to verify businesses, do the due diligence process, data rooms, contracts, many issues and problems, and even capital. That's something that we're also investigating as a company, helping them to get the capital in order to buy a business, something that it's important. So for us, I think in the last year, we saw many buyers from different personas. We saw the aggregators, we saw private equity firm, we saw individuals that just looking for, acquire a new e-commerce brand. And we saw big brands that was looking for and still looking for small brands in order to acquiring them. We also had a father that wanted to buy an e-commerce brand for his two kids. just just to teach them what is an e-commerce business. It's still in the market, so
Wow.
maybe someone will be, his acquisition they're still looking for. So it was pretty unique. And I think we in this year we onboarded buyers with more than $500 million to deploy. So the buyer's market is there for e-commerce specifically. And it's crazy for a small startup. Like we have organic leads of buyers looking for, for sellers in the e-commerce space. It's crazy. The market in M&A from the buyer side is still kicking off, even though we're hearing all the news about the aggregator space. We're just shifting for new buyers. And I can see that we're shifting for the early stage adopters. We're shifting for people that are raising capital with lower amounts. You don't have to raise VC capital in order to buy a business, especially an e-commerce business. So the tools that we're offering currently, we do the matchmaking. So we do verification of the businesses, and we connect between a buyer and a seller. So this is our step in the process. In the future, we will offer them many more tools, such as due diligence processes, online contracts, negotiation. This is something that we do with them, but it's still right now we mainly focus on the seller side. With the buyer side, we mainly do the matchmaking currently. But in the future, will be many products. I can give you a product that we're thinking of in the company as a portfolio feature, that a buyer can interact with all the companies that he acquired with Boosst and manage all the businesses in the platform. So I can show you all the features, the roadmap, but this is just the beginning of a huge ecosystem that's going to build in the next decade.
Wow, that's really impressive, and makes me think of a lot of other questions that go along in that process. One of which being, do you guys ever, like, say you have a bunch of buyers in the marketplace, and there's one business that 2, maybe 3 buyers really like. Is there any possibility of them splitting the equity and coming together to make a purchase together, almost like syndicating it? Or is that not something that happens?
It's a great question. It could happen. Usually it happens as syndicated for startups such as angel investor. For e-commerce brands, I saw it wasn't likely from what I saw in the market. Maybe in the future when the market will be much more stable and there are many platforms offering these tools, we probably will see it more often. This thing that you're saying is such as like partnership, merges, things that are less common and from a regular acquisition. But then with the right tools, I believe that people will have not just the courage, also the knowledge in order to buy a business in this way. Because imagine if you don't have the knowledge how to have a capital for buying a business, how to verify a business before buying it, how to do all the process, you probably will, you need more knowledge in order how to do it with other people. It's like the next phase of a buying a business kind of way. It's like houses. Like imagine you're buying a house, you want to buy it with your friend. It's hard because now you need to verify your friend as well. And it's like complicated. Partners are complicated things, even if they're big companies. So it's not really matter if you're just 2 guys or girls want to buy a business or big giant companies want to buy the same brand. It's still partnership. And I think the partnership we'll see later on in this ecosystem. But for sole acquisition, we're probably going to see it. What more likely that I can say, the buyer can come and not buying the business completely. They can say, I want this equity. I'm going to be a partner. I'm going to be a silent partner. And eventually it can be in the contract or not. They can decide I will buy the business, such as strategic buyer.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. That's super interesting. That's really interesting. So yeah, you can have somebody who can partake in part of the acquisition, right? And they can purchase some of the equity from the previous owner, and then over time maybe has the option to purchase the rest.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
But again, they still need tools and knowledge. The buyers still need tools and knowledge in order to do the process. But yeah, definitely. And this is why we mainly focus on e-commerce, because buying an e-commerce brand, it's different than buying a startup. It's different than buying a grocery store or a pizza shop. So e-commerce brand are amazing. I'm sure you know and well aware of that in 8Fig. So they need the expertise of people understanding what is e-commerce, how to buy an e-commerce business, how to operate an e-commerce business.
Absolutely. We see that a lot. And that's kind of how 8Fig was formed. Sure. There's a lot of lenders and credit facilities out there that don't necessarily understand e-commerce like we do. So that's how we've sort of formed as well. So it's interesting. We have that in common for sure. So for the vision for Boosst, right? Just something that came to mind. Do you think you'll solely stay in e-commerce
No.
in the near term, and in the long term, you think you'll advance to other business types as well?
Definitely. I think SMBs, small medium businesses, is going to change dramatically in the next decade. You can see statistics that $10 trillion of worth of small businesses in the state will need to transfer hands in the next decade. Why? Because of the baby boomer generation. So even if we'd like it or not just the e-commerce space, all the space of small medium businesses that typically have the ownership of our parents or the parents of our parents of the old generation will need to change hands. My parents, for example, owns businesses that my sister and I will not take the ownership on. Something will happen with those businesses, or they're going to shut down, or they're going to find a buyer, or they're going to massively scale. Potentially not, because they're small, medium businesses, and 99% of business in the state are SMBs. So this is why we build Boosst. Yeah, people think the M&A, investment banking, and things like that are like it's like they're hearing a lot of the things, but it's less. Typically, we have small, medium businesses. This is the economy. So I think we will see the transition in the next decade. It will take a while because it's a really manual ecosystem of brokers and investment bankers, and we want to help them as well. We want to give them the power in order to be much more efficient. But because of that, because of the lack of knowledge of this ecosystem, we will see more knowledge, more tools, more platforms in order to make the acquisition in the SMB's ecosystem.
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting to think about, small and medium-sized businesses. They're the lifeblood of the economy, right? And they make up the lion's share of it. So to hear your take on it with the baby boomers kind of, absolving themselves of this businesses, it's going to need to change hands. So that's really cool that you guys are staying on top of that and have that in mind. To switch gears a little bit, I want to go back to like the seller side of the equation and Amazon sellers and e-commerce sellers and whatnot. What are some, maybe you've been approached by some sellers in the past, they want to get listed on Boosst or they want to figure out how to sell their business, right? What are some common challenges you see them face early on or when they come to your platform? Are there any common challenges or hurdles that they have to overcome that you see pretty frequently?
You're talking of people that's starting a business or coming to exit their business? What do you like to hear more?
Let's do both. Let's do both. How about we do those who are just starting their business, maybe have the goal of exiting, and those who have been around for a while and want to exit their business. What are some common challenges you see both of those segments face?
And the challenges are pretty similar, and it's pretty to my ecosystem and my expertise and why I say it every time. But I will start with the people that's starting a business. People that's starting a business, I see the struggle in. I'm not saying that because I'm in the 8-Fig podcast. I'm saying in general, raising capital and cash flow. One of the biggest, let's say challenge, of every business owner from early stage, especially today, raising, capital in order to spend it on marketing and inventory and employees. Like it's so hard today when you have so many competition, all this, big giant companies putting a lot of marketing budget, and it's really, really hard to compete when you're a small business. So if you don't have any money at all to spend that, it's really hard to create a business in general. And I'm still a believer. So if there are people out there can build a business without, capital, go and do that. But for most of businesses, it will be hard. And for most businesses, they will need to do a lot of experiments to reach this product market fit or to reach the specific clients that their product is really, is really fit for. So you need capital. You need capital to survive. And I'm not going to say a number because every business with their goals, and there are a lot of, mentors and accountants offering that. I'm sure there are capital providers also offering this for like starting small and things like that. But I see that, the challenge, it's not just raising the capital. And today, actually, there are many solutions that offer that and many ways to do that, not just going to the bank and ask for loans, but also using other platforms that offering that. Fundraising. Today you can go and fundraising for friends and family. You can go to angel investor. You can looking for accelerators, like many ways that, it's also e-commerce brands. I have a friend that she opened a new brand and she asked me, what is an e-commerce accelerators? Like there exists. They can give you capital to build your first structure of the company, especially in the US, by the way. So the challenges exist, but I'm seeing more and more solutions, and it's nice to see more and more solutions in the e-commerce segment. And for people that want to exit their business, one of the biggest challenges is financial management. So they're coming to us with really, really difficult profit and loss statements and cash flow statements and a lot of, all the financial organization, budgeting, everything that happened with their business is really, really hard to understand. And it's super crucial, and it will change dramatically their exit path and their multiples and their valuation. And people don't understand that. So it's a recommendation also for early stage as well. People that are just starting a business. Raising capital, it's important, and so on, but also managing your financials right from the start and not thinking about it when you're ending the business. And I know it's boring sometimes, and a lot of, e-commerce business owners are launching products and, like to talk with customers and like to manage the inventory and think PPC is the most important. But actually, when you see the end of a business, actually what's one of the things that are most important is our financials. For raising capital, to selling the business, to have a partnerships, like for a lot of things. So if you don't have that, you don't have the financial correctly, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be done. It's really, really hard to continue. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys also see this as a lot, because you also need to verify the business. You need to help the business. And so it's exactly as a buyer will look for you, exactly as a bank or a capital provider will look at your business. You need to give them something in order to say, yes, we will take the risk and help you to grow or help you to exit. And I think a lot of people don't understand that when they're first opening a business. But if you have this in mind, in the minute you open the business, you will change dramatically let's say the path or the future of your business.
Absolutely. And that's something that goes back to what you were saying from like the buyer side of things. It's really important to understand the process from a financial perspective, how to look at a balance sheet, how to assess sales and things like that, and other debt that they have on their balance sheet and whatnot. And it's something that's really important that I'm glad there are, people like you out there that are helping to solve that problem, get people more in tune with what they need to know before they step up to the plate to sell their business and whatnot. So that's really powerful. One thing I wanted to ask you, before we start wrapping things up is what sort of, emerging trends or technologies do you see, shaping the future of e-commerce and Amazon sellers, or maybe just even small and medium-sized businesses in the future? What would you say there? Just out of curiosity, something I like to ask everyone.
I see many trends actually, especially today. The market is like trend is it's a big word to say, but let's start with the regular trend. As you probably know, the AI revolution. Probably everyone said that. I'm not going to repeat it that much, but I just see many companies in this space helping e-commerce, founders in the operation side, and it's actually pretty exciting. Because for many years, the operation side was pretty the same, a lot of the same companies. And now there is a space for new revolutionary companies to come and change the way we do like e-commerce operation. So I'm pretty excited to see who's going to be the winners of the markets, what's going to, the products, the awesome thing that the market can help those e-commerce brands. Definitely it's something that will help because it's an operation side, and AI definitely can help. We already see that as an end consumer using all the tools. So if you will learn how to use it in their e-commerce, channels, it's going to be amazing. I'm not the expert for that, but not for now, because M&A also has a lot of AI, but we can talk about it in a separate conversation. But the second thing, it's something I really related to the core of our business, is the M&A trend. So a lot of things happened in the last, few years with aggregators, and people heard the decreasing and a lot of things. The M&A trend is still existing. It's still existing. From my belief, is going to still grow, especially when the market is down. Because when the market is down, the multiple are lowers, and people probably will, want to buy a business because they have better offering. And also the market is down, so people will want to sell if they don't have the cash flow. So M&A, it's just going to be, I think going to be better in the next years, especially with the knowledge and the platform that we'll see more in companies raising funds like our own in this space. With just different way, just different, space. Aggregators are some, it's a part in this ecosystem, but they're not all the ecosystem. As I mentioned, they're the new buyers. I think the new buyers generation of e-commerce brand and SMBs in general, the new buyers, everyone can be a small business buyer. How? You can learn. You can get capital now. You can go to SBA loans in the state and take a loan in order to buy a business, something that wasn't a few years ago. So it's a major trend that we'll see dramatically. I think in e-commerce, it's even more nice because it's such a nice industry to see, because a lot of brands doing kind of the same operation game, but with different products. So it's not like a grocery store. It's not like a pizzeria store, right? But an e-commerce brand, it's like you have the same kind of magic behind things. So a lot of people will think about acquiring a e-commerce business. They're just going to think about the industry. So yeah, this is a major trend that we will see eventually. And I'm here and my team is here to helping that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully so, for sure. That's really interesting, right? I think you're right. I think it's only going to become more rich as more people want to invest. And like you said, there was a father who's buying businesses for his children, right? I think we're going to start seeing more of that, down the line. It's really cool to see. And, it's really been awesome to chat with you about it and kind of hear more of your insights about that whole process. If we had some sellers or maybe even some buyers who wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So obviously we have the website. It's a quick sign up for both sides, without any sensitive information. You just sign up. The domain is boostme.com. And after sign up, they can jump on a call with our e-commerce M&A expert. They will continue leading them in the process. But if someone is hearing that and actually want to schedule a call with me, I think the best way to reach out for me is my LinkedIn profile. So Gal Barzilay, it's my full name. And I can also send you guys my private email for 8Fig customers as well and audience. But I'm always welcome new customers, even someone that thinking about selling your business or thinking of buying an e-commerce business. Like this is not not a guarantee from my side, and it's not a guarantee from your side. Like just listen to the stories. It's already gonna make my day. So feel free to jump on a call.
Excellent. And we could add all those contact details in the show notes as well as, when we post the episode. But there you have it, folks. Thank you, Gal, so much for joining. I really, really loved our conversation and learning more about, the buying process and the selling process. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. So thank you, Gal, and thank you to everyone who's tuning in. Again, this is Sell Yeah, the podcast segment ran by 8Fig, where we feature interviews with our valued partners and sellers to spread the good word about what they're doing to bring value to the e-commerce space and make for a better ecosystem for us all. If you'd like to learn more about the sort of partners and providers that 8Fig can introduce you to, or simply how 8Fig can help you fund your supply chain, please visit 8fig.co or reach out to me, howdy@8fig.co, for more information. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. And thank you, Gal. It's been such a pleasure. Hope to have this conversation again soon.
Of course. Bye. Thank you, Sam.